Welcome to this week's episode of Thoroughly Entertained. This week, Krista and I saw the new magical thriller, Now You See Me, and the post-apocalyptic sci-fi adventure, After Earth. But first, we want to congratulate Mirna from Anaheim, California for winning our $50 Fandango gift card giveaway. And please go to thoroughllyentertained.com, enter your email address, and get our summer movie guide so you know what's happening every week at the theater. In the new thriller, Now You See Me, a group of street magicians get tabbed by an unknown benefactor and shown how to create the greatest illusions in the world. But in exchange for that knowledge, they have to pull off some daring heists and try and stay one step ahead of the FBI. Alright everybody, this week's question that we want you to give us an answer to in the comment section down below is, who is your all-time favorite movie magician? Krista?
Mine has to be Edward Norton's character on The Illusionist. I love that movie.
Yeah, terrific. And I'll say mine is Gandalf from Lord of the Rings.
But, you know, we're also big fans of Harry Potter, so...
Yeah, Harry Potter's good too. But we didn't want to say Potter 2 weeks in a row.
Alright, so we're going to be talking about Now You See Me first.
Alright, I love this movie. I thought it was smart. I thought it was fast-paced. I thought it was fun. I really hope that this movie becomes a success because I think everything about it was good.
I agree. It had an amazing cast,
yeah,
like
the cast
strong
was great.
actors,
yeah.
And they play off each other so well. And both of us commented on this in our reviews that we wish there'd been more of it.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing. There's rarely do I want more dialogue in a movie and more scenes, but this is one of those times when I would have loved even like all of those characters fleshed out even a little bit deeper, just because they were so fun and the chemistry was so palpable between them.
Yeah, and anytime they paired off two characters, whether it was Mark Ruffalo with Morgan Freeman, or Jesse Eisenberg with Woody Harrelson, or even Michael Caine with Morgan Freeman, anytime they paired off two characters and gave them time to just do dialogue right at each other, it was electric. I really liked it. And there are enough twists and turns in this movie that that you see coming, that when they hit you with one that you don't, it's shocking. Like, the end stunned me because I thought I had every twist figured out.
Right, you were like, oh my, like. I think it surprised you more than it surprised me because you were so vocal at the theater. But what I liked about it was the fact that I like smart movies. I like movies that make me think along with it, and this had me doing that the whole way through. And you're right, I had figured out some pieces, and I thought I figured out all of the possible scenarios, but what they end up doing at the end, it surprised me as well. And it's a fun movie.
Yeah, and you get a good reveal, and the entire movie is almost set up like it's a magic trick.
Right.
And so every time they show you something, they're giving you like information that leads you in the wrong direction. And since you know they're trying to lead you in the wrong direction, you're like, okay, well they're showing me this, so this doesn't mean what I think it means. So you're trying to figure out 2 or 3 different scenarios at once. And I thought it was really smart. I think Louis Leterrier, who the director, does a really good job of it. And most people would know him from directing the Transporter films. Mm-hmm. His style is dynamic. We noticed that he does a lot of the character in the center, camera pans 360 degrees around him. But there's a style to that. And the movie has a lot of style and flash. The way they set the big magic shows in each of the different locations, and each location is very different. I thought visually the movie was really interesting and dynamic. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. What was your one negative that you would say?
The reason why I didn't give it an A and only give it an A- was the fact that I wanted there to be a longer... Like, I wanted more reveals at the end. I think telling them all the way through sort of lost some of the magic of the surprise factor in a movie like this. And so I would have liked more reveal at the end of all of how they did all of their tricks in the beginning, because that would have just kept the mystery a little longer for me. Yeah,
and for me, I only had 2 things that I didn't like. One was they revealed one thing in the trailer that I'm not going to mention, so that when the final sequence started to unravel, I knew one key piece of it that I wish I didn't know. The other thing that was a little bit of a negative is there's a really interesting dynamic between Isla Fisher and Jesse Eisenberg. And, there's romantic undertones to that, and they never really explore that at all in the movie.
No, not at all.
They address it at the very beginning, how she used to be his assistant, and they were into each other, but nothing ever happened, and they kind of go away from it, and you never see that again, and you always kind of are hoping that you will. And so that's my only negative, but otherwise, like I said, fast, smart, clever, layered, it's a really fun, good film.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, I gave it an A-.
As did I.
Okay.
1,000 years after mankind has been forced to abandon the Earth, a peacekeeping group known as the Rangers must crash land on the Earth, and the only two surviving members are a father and his son.
Alrighty, so let's talk about After Earth.
I liked After Earth as well. I think this is going to be a real kind of feather in the cap of M. Night Shyamalan, who has kind of had a run of disappointing films lately. And the fact that he co-wrote this script helps, because I think having another eye on the script to keep him from, tinkering a little too much with it helped. Plus, I think visually it looked a little bit better than his last big budget epic, which was The Last Airbender, which was not good, and especially the digital effects were not good in that. I thought it was solid, pretty good overall.
I know lots of critics have been totally panning this movie for a number of different reasons.
Yeah.
But as a movie as a whole, I was entertained. Like, I thought it was interesting. I thought the acting between Will and Jaden Smith was strong. Because most of the movie relies on Jaden specifically, because he is forced to go out and seek for help because his father's injured. And so even their relationship is fractured and difficult, and you really he's very emotive in the movie, and you feel it. Yes, we found the accents a little pretentious and annoying and wavered in and out.
These weird future man accents, and like you said, they'd have them sometimes, and they wouldn't. Like there was times where Will Smith would have no accent at all, and then he'd have a little bit of an accent, and then there was times where Jaden's would be really heavy. Like I didn't understand what they were trying to do. It almost sounded South African a little bit, but yeah, it kind of took me out of it every time I noticed it.
But as a whole, what I really liked about the movie was the fact that I liked what M. Night Shyamalan did with how the Earth has sort of evolved and some of the clever things of just subtle changes. I thought most of the special effects were quite believable. I thought the action, when it came, I was jumping all the time in this movie, because things would just take me by surprise and sort of freak me out a bit.
Well, and M. Night Shyamalan, which is kind of his specialty, is really good at building the tension in between the big action sequences. Because for as kind of fast-paced as it looks in the trailers, a lot of this movie is kind of the simple quiet in between a big animal attacking him, or him having to make a life or death decision on the run, and because of that, it really does a good job of building the tension up, so that when something does happen, it's startling, because you're waiting and waiting and waiting, for this thing that is coming, you just don't know when. And so I think he does a really good job with that, and suspense has kind of been M. Night Shyamalan's forte, and to get back to his roots to do that, I think it was a really smart thing for him.
The one thing that I think could have been improved was more backstory, actually. They focus a lot on the Earth, which is fine, but you don't get a lot of why the humans have left the Earth initially. You get sort of a really brief sequence. You don't see enough beginning to the story, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of flashbacks going on, which help a bit, but I would have liked a little more, that fleshed out a little more.
For me, I disagree a little bit on the visual effects. I think if you stack it up to some of the really great digital effects in movies that have come up lately, I think this movie does fall a little short of that. I think the actual scenery that's built, I think the interior of the spaceship is kind of interesting. I think a lot of the times when he's out in the wilderness and you can tell that he's out amongst real trees and things, I think those are gorgeously shot and really lush and interesting. But I don't think the digital effects themselves are as strong as some we've seen recently. And again, that was a huge failing in The Last Airbender, but I think that's only a minor detail in this film.
Overall, I gave it a B.
Yeah, I gave it a B as well. We agreed pretty across the board on both of the films we saw this week. But for the most part, with After Earth, I would say if you're going in expecting it to be a big-time action film, I don't think you're going to quite get that. But if you want something that's kind of interesting and tense, and to feel real chemistry between the two leads, which you get between Will and Jaden Smith, you're going to get what you're looking for from this movie if that's what your expectations are.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of Thoroughly Entertained. Next week we'll be discussing the new movie, The Internship, as well as Joss Whedon's remake of Much Ado About Nothing. As always, please visit our website at thoroughllyentertained.com. Sign up for our summer movie guide so you can stay abreast of what's happening at the movies this summer. And make sure to always read our reviews, like us below, all of that stuff. And join us on our quest to be thoroughly entertained.